It's time for Sustainable Living with Glenn Boblitz, the show that helps you be prepared to care for your family regardless of the circumstances that may come your way. Now, here's your host for today, Mark Lamb.
Well, once again, we're with Glenn Boblitz, but now we're in the new year, 2026, and not a lot's happened since we were last year. No, wait a minute.
Yeah, it's been a real boring end of the year, wasn't it? New Year's just smooth as glass.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Well, we did extract a world leader and bring him back to New York.
Yeah, we took out a big mouth, drug dealing man killer of young adults all across the United States, 300,000 at a whap, and you wonder why we went and got him and snatched him out of there,
Yeah. I see you self-edited right there.
Yeah. That was real close.
So, Glenn, it just goes to show you that things can change overnight, and it certainly did. When I woke up on Saturday and I wasn't following the news, and I'm going, what? Why am I keep getting these alerts?
Yeah, it's like, what'd he do? Yeah, he didn't tell us. He didn't broadcast it.
Right.
He didn't leak it out, or somebody else leak it out.
Have you noticed during this administration?
Not a whole lot of leaks, is there?
No, because I think Trump learned that which ones can be trusted and which ones can't.
Well, we've done a whole show on this called Your Inner Circle.
Yeah.
And that inner circle is small.
Yeah. And it's extremely important.
And you can see why an inner circle is called an inner circle. Because if not, you can't trust a lot of people. Things that you thought you could trust, you cannot.
Sure.
So, strengthen your inner circle. That's pretty much what the theme of that is.
Yeah.
And that's what he's done. So
surround yourself with good people.
Yeah.
That's important.
That do what they say they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
But you still have to trust but verify.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing that constantly, you're making a mistake. Because people change, things happen, and people get compromised. It happens all over the world, and definitely within our government. You see people that you thought were good just go the opposite way and go, that doesn't even make sense.
Right.
Well, it does if they've been compromised. Compromised with money, compromised with blackmail, compromised in any form or fashion. There's a lot of ways to get compromised.
Sure.
And they know what buttons to push on you. And they'll push that button, put this in front of you, put that in front of you, and then take your picture with it. It happens all the time. You know, all this stuff with the Epstein list. They got pictures of Trump standing right next to Epstein. Well, these were world shakers at the time.
Right.
It has nothing to do with what went on at Epstein Island. So
Our old friend Salty Henderson, right?
Right.
You know what Salty said in the Tom Sullivan show? I guess he did an interview with Tom or something. He said he was tired of the Epstein stuff. It was very anticlimactic. And he's just tired of it. Just let's move on.
Yep.
Is it important? Yeah. But to put it at the level of importance that they are putting it with all the rest of this crazy stuff going on in the world, I'm tired of hearing it myself. Well,
poop or get off the pot.
Right, exactly.
Another self-edit, but that's just the way this is. I'm tired of it, and I think America is tired of hearing, we're going to put them in jail,
right,
and all that kind of stuff. Don't blow smoke at me.
Yeah.
You either do it or don't.
Yeah.
And if there's some clandestine operation going on behind the scenes where they're going to swoop in the white hats, I'm about tired of hearing all that.
Yeah.
Until people like Hillary Clinton go to jail and the rest of that crooked bunch.
Right.
I don't want to hear it no more.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're working on it, fine, but I don't want to hear that no more.
Yeah.
Do it or get out of the way. And I think that's a problem in the upcoming elections. We talked about this, on a ride, and they better straighten that out. They better grow a pair. And it's definitely evident that Trump's got the pair to do it.
Right.
He's got the plums. I will do that.
Yeah.
The dumbest thing Maduro did says, "You coward, come and get me."
Yeah.
How'd that work out for you?
Yeah, not too good.
But where's the rest of them?
Yeah.
That's the point. Where's all the people that are glad handing him when they need something, but don't really support him when he needs something. So
Sure.
I'm pretty much done with that.
Yeah.
So
Well, the
get it done, folks. You know,
Yeah.
wise man once said, "Get her done."
Yeah, that's right.
So that's all we're asking. Do what you say you're going to do, or
Right.
we will vote you out. And I've heard that more than once.
Yeah.
So keep the faith, America. Do the right things, regardless of what everybody else is doing.
Exactly.
But we'll get back
And
into
that brings us to our topic, right?
Yeah, that brings us, into reality of our little world that we can control.
Yes.
You can't rage about everything out there, but there are some things that you can control. One of them is just being prepared, getting a little more sustainable, being less vulnerable.
Right.
Whatever that means. It's a huge subject, and we talk about it all the time, so we're going to get into a little bit of it.
Okay.
It'd seem funny, as cool as it's been to talk about gardening, but guess what? It's almost here.
Well, you got a plan.
This planting is the biggest part of your garden, so you don't fail.
Yeah.
So this time of year, you should be, going through all your seed catalogs and online catalogs and seeing what you want to plant.
Yeah.
If you've got a place that you can actually start some seeds, there's a whole bunch of things you can do.
Right.
The cool crops kind of stuff. And we can get into some of them. I'll just read off a couple lists. There's about 9 right off the bat that I can think of. Onions from seed. You
Okay.
can actually start your onions from seed rather than buy the whole set. They are a biannual, so what you grow this year, you should either pull up or leave in the ground
Okay.
for another year so they get really big. That's how you get these big Vidalia onions.
I didn't
That's
know
a
that.
2-year-old onion when you get it.
Wow.
So starting the onion from seed is how it's done.
Okay.
So if you want a good onion crop and don't want to pay the prices for onion sets, and I'm here to tell you, onion sets sell out like crazy anymore. Have you
Interesting.
noticed that? You used to come in and there'd be a bushel basket at your local farm store or wherever you get it of onions, all different kinds. And man, boom, they're gone.
Yeah.
And they're not ordering a second time. They buy what they think they can sell, and that's it. So sometimes you're just stuck. But if you start them from seed, you'll always have a set of onions ready to go for springtime. So onions is one of them.
All right.
Leeks. I don't know if anybody ever grown leeks. Leeks is kind of like a real mild onion. It's got a real heavy stalk. It's not like the onion that has that little thin stalk at the top. It's a very mild onion, real good to cook with, and by gosh, they can get huge. They can get 2 inches around in 1 year.
Okay.
So leeks is something you can start. Chives. Now, I don't know if anybody grows their own chives. We've actually got a little patch of chives.
Okay.
Right outside the kitchen door. So when I have baked potato, I have with
You just
chives
go out and
on it,
get
just
it.
like at big restaurants.
Yeah.
My wife does like to try to spoil me, and I let her. So chives. And chives, the tops of them are real mild flavor too. They're not like a real strong onion. And
Okay.
so that's all it really is, kind of a garnish and
Okay.
with a little flavor to it. And you can cook with them also. All your lettuce crops. Some people don't like the lettuce from the store, or they don't like growing their own lettuce because it's not like the store. Well, there's 30 kinds of lettuce. I like arugula.
I know of a handful.
I like arugula.
Okay.
It's kind of reddish color, but it actually has a little more flavor. We like the iceberg lettuce. Kind of hard to grow in our area, but if you get a little practice at it, you'll figure it out. So little lettuce beats the heck out of $5 a bag at the store.
Wow.
Goodness gracious. Spinach, super high in nutrition, folks. It's all about the nutrition and taste. Whole reason I grow a garden. I'd much rather have something that I've grown, that I'm the only one that's put my hands on it. Because some of the people that work in these larger farms don't have quite the hygiene practices that I do. And that's where this listeria comes from and a lot of other stuff. And I'm not throwing rocks at them. I don't care who's doing it. Wash your hands, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
Which is good practice for all of us even if you didn't just visit the outhouse.
Oh yeah, sure.
You know, I'm just saying to keep from transferring bacteria from one patch to another. It's just a good idea. Same way with your cutting tools, cleaning them and in alcohol. So if you're trimming one of your vegetables, don't transfer it over to something else. Just have an alcohol wipe, clean them right off.
Okay.
You know, it's kind of like doing surgery out there.
Right.
Because you are cutting that plant, and
True.
if it has a bacteria on it, you're going to spread it to everything in your garden. You probably wouldn't think of that, but that's how I do it, especially on my trees when we're talking about pruning trees. You know, if you ever get online and how to prune an apple tree, that's the first thing they tell you is to clean the cutting tools. And when you go to the next tree, clean it before you cut the next tree, in case your first tree has gummosis or some bacteria on it. You don't want to spread it across your whole orchard. We stopped at spinach, going on to parsley. Parsley's not my favorite. It to me, it has like a bitter taste, but it does look cool on the side.
It does.
And my wife's all about presentation, you know, and she does a little fancy meal for me.
I gotcha.
She will put the little garnish on the side,
Nice.
which is just cool, makes me feel special. Kale. A lot of people don't like kale, probably because you're eating it from the store. Most kale has that grassy taste that people just don't care for. Now, I actually like the kale that we grow. We grow a blue Russian curly kale. The reason I do is that stuff is hot as wasabi.
Really?
Now,
Interesting.
there's a lot of different varieties. Now, you shred some of that up in your salad, and for some people, you go, wow, there's a kick to that. Sure it is. But it's not a boring salad anymore, that's for darn sure. But I like the kale. Some people do, some people don't. But there's a lot of nutrition in the kale that's important for your body. So quit whining and eat your greens. Swiss chard. Swiss chard is kind of an odd duck in the gardening world. It doesn't have a whole lot of super flavor. It's more on the salad end, the lettuce end of things. But boy, does it look cool. I mean, there'll be orange, yellow, bright red, purple. So it's a good presentation thing, and it's good for you. It does have a lot of nutrients. Not a lot of super duper taste that you would compare to, a curly leaf kale, but, good for you. Eat your greens. Bok choy. You ever had bok choy?
I have.
I bet you if you've had Chinese food, you've had bok choy. It kind of looks like the bottom off of a celery stalk, when they put it in some of the Chinese and the Oriental dishes. But it's got a mild cabbage flavor to it. Real easy to grow.
Okay.
Lots of vitamins to it. If you're going to make kimchi, you ever had kimchi? Kimchi's hot as crap,
Is
man.
it? Okay. I'm liking hotter foods here in the last decade.
Well, it's actually good for your circulatory system, all that kind of stuff. When you get a little spice into it, a little spice in your life. But bok choy, man, that's the stuff. And it just changes your salad up where you don't get bored eating salad.
Right.
Lettuce and tomato and cucumber is pretty boring because we've been eating it for, me, 60-some years. But you start throwing some other stuff in there. Shredded turnips. Have you ever shredded a raw turnip and put it in your salad? Super duper. It puts a lot of moisture in it because it's shredded.
Okay.
Some people don't like turnips, but I'll guarantee if I shredded it up in your salad, you go, wow, that's a good change. It's just something about it. It's a little different, adds a little different texture to your salad. Talking a lot about salads, aren't we?
That's okay.
Good stuff. So those are 9 of them that you could start right now and do your little indoor greenhouse, or if you have just a sunny window that you can get these things started. Once they come up, within an inch or two, you can start transplanting them. When we do that, we tend to just plant in a flat and just plant a whole row because the seeds are micro size. You ever try? Yeah, you ever try to plant some of these little seeds are just they're almost the size of a flea. You know,
Oh,
they're so
wow.
small. You
Gosh.
can't get one in a single 6-pack tray. You might as well just forget that.
Interesting.
So we just put them in a row. That way, I've got a lot to choose from. I can pick the healthiest ones, and that's what I grow from.
Okay.
Which is always a good idea. Pick your best performers. It works for saving seeds also. Like, I don't just pick any tomato for saving a seed. I pick the best one. Now, it breaks my heart that I got to let it over ripen and not put it on a sandwich. But
Right.
you go, okay, that was the best producing tomato out of that entire plant. That's the guy I want my seeds from because he proved he can do it.
Right.
Same principle here. When you're starting your little seed garden, you know, you go, okay, this guy did the best. Means he germinated quickly. He outgrew everybody else, so he's got good genetics. So you
Right.
pick him. That's the one you want to transplant and start over. And don't panic if you lose, 20% of your transplants. You got a whole nother row, that flat over here, to just change him out. Now, he may be a little bit behind the others, but that's okay. You got a bunch. So that's kind of how we do it when we're seed starting early in the year. Just finding the seeds, folks. I don't know if anybody's noticed and looked in their seed catalog lately, but man, the prices have gone through the roof on these. I mean, you're talking 60 cents a seed for a selected tomato.
Wow.
Now, last year, everybody's tomatoes just did crap, and I think it had a lot to do with solar flares and high temperatures and you name it. So we're switching our varieties this year to a more heat-tolerant variety, Heat Master or something like that. And they're grown in the southern states, so we're going to bring those up and we're going to try them, see how they do. Because the Better Boys and all that stuff we tried last year, they just panicked when it got up to 92, 93 degrees, and they go, no, we're done. And we just didn't get many. And it wasn't just us, it was pretty much everybody. So you may have to change up what you're planting just because of the weather changes that we're getting. There was another change in the planting of any seeds or any transplant. The frost date has been moved forward. Did you see any on that?
No.
Probably not. Usually it's in the first week to the second week of April when the last frost is done.
Right.
Well, this year they're counting it as the 23rd because last year we had a terrible late frost, wiped out pretty much all my fruit crops because they were either in full bloom or in bud set or they had already had petal drop and they were trying to produce the fruit, so they were just baby size. And that frost come through, and it was a heavy frost. It frosted early in the night, like at 11 o'clock. So that's, several hours of frozen blooms and starters. Just kind of wiped us out. We didn't get much peaches. We didn't get many apples. We got some, but not many. The only ones that really survived were the ones that were still in the early bud stages. They kind of made it through. And there are certain varieties you can get for that. But, I've got a pretty wide variety of trees, so they all kind of bloom at different times. So, and it's all within about a 3-week period. But that 3-week period, if the frost cycle is out of whack, you may lose all of them. If it hits the early ones, okay, you get that. You still have the later blooming ones, So you got to look at how your trees that you've selected, when they bloom, compared to all the others, the types of apples, And I don't stress out over that part. What I'm looking for is what kind of apple am I growing. A lot of people don't really know what to grow. They grow what they've heard. Red Delicious, Yellow Delicious, that kind of thing. Honeycrisp, those kind of things. But you need to do your research on them, and because some of them store well, and if that's what you want, you need to get a storing apple, like an Arkansas Black. That's an old-timey apple, really dark colored. If that's what you're after, that's what you want to plant. If you just want a few to eat, the Honeycrisp or the Galas, they're real good. So decide what you want the apple for. Now, it sounds kind of silly, but, You can use an apple for everything. Not really. Yellow Delicious, like if you put it in a pie, it just turns to mush.
Oh, really?
Nobody likes a mushy apple pie.
No.
So I'm just saying, just read the little descriptions. And some companies are better than the other about their description, but you can get an average of what this particular apple will do. So this is the time of the year that you actually want to do that. Start looking up and researching. This is the planning stage, so plan on doing some research of what kind of apples you want, because apple tree can last about 35 years.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, if it was properly maintained, properly pruned, all that kind of stuff, and doesn't get diseased, you could have a long-term project on your hands. And pruning is part of it. Keeping it cleaned up. If you've got a little limb that's got a disease on it, you got to cut that out so it doesn't spread to the rest of the tree.
Right.
So there's a little education part to it. So I would suggest at this time of year, because it is the planting station, as you start picking what you want to grow, is to research that. I don't care if you're growing tomatoes or Swiss chard or apple trees. You want to educate yourself. What does this plant need? And then the biggest thing you could do is start reading articles on growing apples, articles on growing your tomatoes, articles on soil.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, you probably should start with your soil. It's probably the most important thing you can do. How do you feed your soils? Now, there's a difference between feeding the soil and amending your soil. Most amendments are just typical Lowe's kind of stuff, 10-10-10 fertilizer. That is amending your soils. If the pH is a little high, you want to put on something to bring the pH down, lime. Mm-hmm. If it's very basic, or alkaline, you want to bring it up with some sulfurs. All right, those are just elemental, easy ways to do that. But that's not really how I do it. I'd rather have the living microbes in my soil, handle everything.
Yeah, we've done whole shows on that.
With the exception of giving them chicken tea, compost tea. Those are all kind of natural, broke down nutrients that plants can use immediately. All the other things that I just mentioned earlier are all chemically made. Now, they tend to build up salts in your soil, and they're not really good for your soil. Yes, they'll make your plants grow by putting on 10-10-10 fertilizer, but that's a petroleum-based product. Would you dump gasoline on your tomato plant? Probably not.
No.
Okay, well, that same 10-10-10 fertilizer was made from a petroleum product.
Okay.
So you might want to learn what the difference between these natural organic fertilizers are and a megastore typical petroleum-based product. So education is going to be kind of key for you if you're just getting started at this. If you're a know-it-all, you need even more information, because what you know, a lot of it's wrong. We've been told wrong. We've been, I don't want to say lied to. Well, we've been sold a bill of goods. You know, you can listen to Dow Chemical, who makes a lot of the fertilizers, or you can listen to some guy that actually does gardening. So one's a salesman, the other's a gardener. You know, which one do you think is a little more in tune with the earth, you know?
Honest.
You know, a granola. We used to call, when I was younger, we used to call people that did all that gardening stuff granolas. You know, Yule Gibbons. You ever hear him?
Oh yeah.
Yule
He
Gibbons.
did the nature or grape nuts, right?
Yeah, he was a naturalist, and he was a driving force in the early 70s. And then was killed by a bug.
Oh,
did you know that?
I did not know
the
that.
poor guy was out in the woods doing what he does and got bit by an assassin bug. An assassin bug poked a hole in him, and the assassin bug, that's how that bug eats, but I think he just stepped on him, or however it happened. He put too much pressure on that assassin bug, and it bit him. And then it got infected, and because he was an older gentleman, he couldn't fight it off fast enough, and next thing you know, it killed him. Killed by a bug. Holy cow. one of the greatest naturalists we ever had, and he was
Wow.
killed by a bug. There's some irony there. So back to just reading. There are so many articles out there, and I do mean about doing this things the right way. And there's a lot of people that are experimenting. I mean, one of them was Back to Eden Garden. That's only about 8-10 years old now, but it made sense to me at the time when I read it, because the guy said, look at the woods. Nobody fertilizes it, and it does just fine. Look at the size of the plants out there, 80 feet high. I'm thinking, okay, how'd that work out? How did they do that? How did that get designed to do that way? Well, we all
Jack
know
of the
who
Beanstalk's territory there.
Yeah, I mean, we all know who the designer was.
Yeah, sure.
We're the only one that keeps screwing it up. So that kind of theory this guy took and put it to his garden, and it does fairly well. There's some nuances to that, and you definitely want to read it. You can't just wing that one, because you're not as good as God was at the design part. But if you can get it close as humanly possible and understand all the principle of why it works in the woods, you will have a good garden. And the benefit to it, there's not much weeding to it. That's my wife's garden.
Okay.
That's the first garden we did, and she can weed it in 15 minutes in the spring, 15 minutes in midsummer, 15 minutes in the fall, and she's done. And it's a big garden, folks. So now my garden is where the corn grows, the bean crops and stuff. So you can't really do the Back to Eden in those kind of situations. I guess you could, but it's just impractical.
Sure.
So I'm out there weeding my corn patch with a hoe and that kind of stuff. But you know, I'm smart enough to take some of the techniques and go, okay, I can plant squash plants and pumpkins along the edge that shade out most of the weeds. Once you've worked a garden a few times, you don't get as many weeds, and that's because you've removed the seed bank that was in there, all the weeds that have been in there for 100 years, and you've tilled that soil, and they just keep coming up. You go, I just weeded this. Where did that seed come from? Because there's millions of seeds in there that have been dormant for a long time. You ever seen the earth crack in the summer?
Yes.
Right. Well, if a weed is dropping its seed down in that crack, how deep does that crack go? 8-10 inches sometimes. So that's the seed bank. And it may have stayed there for a long time. And you tilled the soil and disturbed that seed bank, and up it comes.
Right.
That's the other thing with the Back to Eden. You're not turning that soil over and disturbing that seed bank. And what does come up has to push too hard through all the mulches and things and wears itself out. It's very weak, and there's not much nutrients on the very top of the Back to Eden garden because it's all green mulch. You need to research that one. But at any rate, there's a cool principle in it. Like, you don't see weeds and grass in the woods. Why is that? Because it's got that mulch layer on it of leaves, which suppresses it. Then the trees, of course, shade it. So God said, well, I can fix this. He didn't want to weed the garden either, so he said, well, I'm going to plant something really tall to shade that stuff out. That may have been a suggestion from Adam. I don't know.
It could have been.
Yeah. Starting your flowers is no different than starting your vegetables. Now, I'm not a big flower guy, but I do have a lot of them. I tend not to buy a whole bunch of stuff from big box stores to plant. I've got some few old-timey flowers, mostly bushes that these are perennials. They come up and they're cool bushes, but I don't want more work. A lot of these things are more work than they're worth, and they're expensive. But if you do decide to get to grow a bunch of flowers and spend a bunch of money on seed, that's up to you. But you can also save those seeds and save $1. I grew zinnias. You know what zinnias are? I grew a zinnia one year. It was just spectacular, and I go, I'll do that again because they were so cool. But I saved the seeds for like 3 years.
Oh, wow.
Now, they'll start to land race and change, and By the third year, they're not as good as they were the first year. So
Okay.
the stream was a little weak, but that's all right. I got 3 years out of them, and I didn't spend a dime.
Mm-hmm.
For a cheap guy like me, that was
Well.
a good thing. Reading up on all these things that I mentioned it is really what you should be doing, folks. You're not going to have somebody that come out to your place unless you got a ton of money and be your gardener. You have to be that knowledgeable person and
Right.
pass it on, for goodness sakes. That's why I'm sitting in this chair right now, passing it on, because people just don't do it as much anymore.
Right.
Then we can look at the sustainable aspect of it. Everybody's going to the grocery store, and at some point during the week or month, and you go, man, this stuff is just outrageous high. It ain't going down neither.
Yeah.
So every pound that you're growing $4 to $5. You know, our garden puts out several thousand pounds. We give a lot away, but that's the value of growing your own in dollars. So it's starting to make sense. It didn't used to. When produce was about $2 a pound at the grocery store, and that ain't been too long ago. It really didn't make sense to put that kind of effort into growing a row of beans when I could buy a bushel of beans for X number of dollars. And you go, well, it's not really worth growing the beans. Well, not anymore.
Yeah.
The added benefit to growing is you know where your food comes from,
Right.
and it's twice as nutritious.
Yeah, because it's almost like the dog food, you know, where they cook it so much.
Oh, yeah.
They cook the nutrition right out of it.
Well, the same way with anybody that's growing produce for one of the big box store food lines. They pick it early and pick it all at once. They don't do several pickings. They just do a mass picking, and then that's about it. But things like squash and all that, they don't let them mature. They don't let them get big enough that squash is actually mature, 14, 16 inches. That's a mature. And the nutrients really don't arrive into that fruit or vegetable until the last stage of maturity.
And they've yanked it from the vine, its source.
Yeah, because
tree or whatever.
because the people have demanded that they be nice, smooth, small squash. 8 inches long. That thing is barely getting started.
It's so pretty, though, Glenn.
Yeah. Same way with all the fruit. Your
Yeah.
apples. Your apples are actually picked that you're eating today. Were picked last year, put in cold storage,
Yeah.
but they picked them semi-green, and that's why they don't have taste. They can't afford to pick a ripe apple and store it. It won't store because it's full of sugars, and the decomposition takes place in the presence of that sugar because that's what all the bacteria and things eat on, the molds and whatnot. That's why you buy something from the store, put it in the refrigerator, in 2 days it's moldy, and you go, why did that happen? Because it's been sitting in storage waiting to rot.
Yeah.
So that's a big reason that I grow my own food, is I want the high nutritional value of it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's only a few reasons you would do this amount of work to get good food. One is the taste. I mean, that's obvious. And the other is nutrition. If you're not buying for those two things, you're wasting your money. You're just buying fiber.
Right.
You might as well get a little tub of Metamucil.
Yeah, I was just thinking.
Yeah, because that's all you're
Yeah.
getting now. That's maybe good for your digestive tract, but
Right.
it's not real good for the rest of your body.
Right.
Because your whole body is a chemical machine that runs off nutrients.
Right.
And some of them are specialized nutrients. That's why they say, eat carrots because it has vitamin A. It's good for your eyes. Well, everything you grow out there is good for a certain part of your body.
Right.
All combined together gives you good health. So that's that series that we've gone through. But I was talking about the apples and what you can grow, and people really don't know that. So that's going to be the second half of what we're getting ready to talk about.
All right. And that's what we're going to do next week. We're going to pick up on that very topic. Glenn, if somebody wants to reach out to you in the meantime, they can do it through our text line, 434-248-0704, or Facebook.
Sustainable living made easy.
Glenn, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Join us again next week for Sustainable Living with Glenn Boblitz, helping you be prepared and not scared. This podcast drops every Friday anywhere you get your podcast.